What is going on, Pats Nation? It's your boy Patriots Global here, back with another video, and in this one, we are going to be talking about Matthew Stafford to the New England Patriots, why this has legs, and why I think the New England Patriots actually are the number one team to land Matthew Stafford, and that is not from a biased opinion because I'm a Patriots fan. It's because it makes genuine sense, and I'm going to get into it in this video. Now, a couple of days ago, we did hear that Matthew Stafford will be traded. He wants to be traded. The new head coach of the Detroit Lions is granting him that trade. And for the entire offseason, even before the offseason started for the New England Patriots, we've been talking about Matthew Stafford to the Patriots, why it makes perfect sense, why Belichick would be interested in him. And now that it is no longer speculation and it is something that is going to happen, him going to the Patriots is something we must talk about. Now let's 100% get this out of the way. There is zero chance at this point that Matthew Stafford does not get traded. When will he be traded? We're not 100% sure. From what I've understood, they would like it to be before the draft. I think that that's when, they can possibly get more out of teams than they could before. And I think that they want to go in and start rebuilding for this draft, the 2021 draft. But of course, let's also remember that no teams can trade. Nothing will at least be official until March. That's when the new league year begins. That's when free agency starts. And that's when you will start to see these trades. That's more likely when this is going to happen. And then, of course, the draft does come around April. Now, not only does this make sense for whoever lands Matthew Stafford, in this case, the New England Patriots, but if you're a Detroit Lions fan, this makes nothing but sense for you also. Now, I do know that, you love Matthew Stafford. He's been a great guy for your organization. He's been a really great quarterback for you, but from a rebuilding standpoint, it makes nothing but sense. The Detroit Lions have a new head coach in the building. From what I understand, he is looking to do a full sweep, hit that reset button, and start fresh with this franchise. There really is not much bright spots of that franchise whatsoever. Not special teams, not offense, not defense. So the rebuild that has to go through is going to take several seasons. And let's be honest with ourselves, Matthew Stafford isn't going to be a part of that because the amount of time it's going to take for the Detroit Lions to actually be a contender, Matthew Stafford might not even be in the league at that point. And I mean, he definitely wouldn't be happy continuing his entire NFL career with a franchise that's hitting a reset button. He wants to win. And because the Detroit Lions are going through this rebuild, they want draft capital, right? They want this draft capital to rebuild with younger guys that are new and upcoming. So they're going to be heavily looking for draft capital or younger players. They're not going to be looking for your Stephon Gilmores because that's not going to help them. And when I look at these teams that need a quarterback, of course the Patriots being one, they really are in the best standings out of all of these other teams, especially because they hold the 15th overall pick. I think you look at teams like the Jets, the Jags, and even the Falcons. These are teams that are going to get one of the top 5 quarterbacks in this draft. So bringing on Matthew Stafford, that's not really a need for you. And then you look at some of these other teams, one, do they not have as good draft capital as the Patriots, at least not as high, but a lot of these teams also are not good, or not in good standing, at least, with cap space. And it's going to take about $25 million to bring on Matthew Stafford alone due to his contract. So if you're a team that only has about $20 million or less to spend, one, you probably don't have enough to bring on Matthew Stafford. And if you bring on Matthew Stafford, you cannot do anything else this offseason. The Patriots are sitting at a point where they are top 5 in cap space. They were number 3. Now I'm hearing about their number 4. We'll get into a video that you guys can watch, which I'm really excited to talk about, where a few ways the Patriots can actually create more cap space for themselves heading into the 2021 offseason. But that is for a separate video. But New England is expected to have somewhere between 55 to 60 million in cap space. You bring on Matthew Stafford, that does take out a nice chunk from it, but let's say that he has $20 million, right? $20 million contract for next season. That takes out about, let's say they're at $55 million. The Patriots will still have about $35 million in cap space to spend before they make any other roster moves. The Patriots are a team that has a draft capital for this and has the cap space to be able to bring him on and still build around him. Now, I do want to get a little bit more into why exactly I think the Patriots are the number one team in landing Matthew Stafford. So some teams I've heard potentially going around about fits for Stafford are teams like the Steelers, the Jets, the Panthers, the 49ers, who have actually been reported to be very, very interested in Stafford, and they're going to monitor him closely. The Denver Broncos, the Washington football team, and of course the Colts. Now the Steelers here, they really don't make too much sense. They do still have Big Ben. I just don't think he retires. And they just don't really have much of the cap space for him. They have, the 24th overall pick. The Jets also don't make too much sense here. Look, they do have the cap space. They do have the draft capital. But they're going to get a top quarterback either way. They're not going to get Trevor Lawrence, but they're going to get any other quarterback they want. I don't see them bringing on Matthew Stafford. Now, as for the Panthers only have about $7.5 million in cap space. They literally are swimming in debt to be able to make roster moves. And they must make roster moves in several areas of their team. They do have the draft capital to make it work. They hold the 8th overall pick, but they do not have the cap space to be able to bring him on. Now, the 49ers, and this is definitely a team to watch because they are very much monitoring him closely. The 49ers want to do something at quarterback that is not Jimmy Garoppolo. They have the 12th overall pick, and they have Jimmy Garoppolo. So they do have some ability to kind of work around this. They have a few picks better than the Patriots, and of course they have Jimmy Garoppolo, which they could include in a trade. I wouldn't do that if I was the Detroit Lions, only because, you're kind of downgrading in quarterbacks, to be honest, and it's a big contract that Jimmy Garoppolo has. The problem here is that they only have $13 million in cap space. There's moves they have to make also. If you just bring on Matthew Stafford, you're going to be in negative cap space. So because their cap situation doesn't really work out for them either, the Denver Broncos are a team also looking for help. They too are a team that has a few picks better than the Patriots in this draft. They have the 9th overall pick, so they have the draft capital to make it work. The problem with them also comes down to what they have in their cap space. Denver Broncos only have about $17 million to spend this offseason in cap space. Another team, they got to make several moves to be legit contenders. And I personally am not giving up on Drew Lock just yet. But again, if they bring on Matthew Stafford, they're going to be in debt also within their cap space. The Washington football team, right? They could definitely be a contender. They have the cap space to make it work. They have $32 million. They wouldn't have too much more to spend, but they definitely have the amount to keep him on and still make some other moves, but they hold the 19th overall pick. The Patriots do have better draft capital than the Washington football team does, so I personally don't see that kind of being the route that they decide to take. Plus, I do think that they do want to roll with Alex Smith. And then I think one of the biggest threats to the Patriots is the Colts. They need a quarterback, and they need a quarterback ASAP. They really don't have a quarterback rolling into the 2021 season. Phillip Rivers just retired. Jacoby Brissett is a free agent. What do? Now, they actually are in better standing than the Patriots cap situation. They have the money to bring him on if they want to. They have about $69 million in cap space. They want him. Cap-wise, they can make it work. But they do hold the 21st overall pick. Obviously, the Patriots do have better draft capital. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Patriots can land him just because they have a few better picks. I mean, if you're the Colts, you can throw in a few extra picks and kind of sweeten that deal up to the point where a few picks doesn't necessarily matter. But because the Patriots do have a few better, they're sitting about 6 picks higher than the Colts, they do have an advantage over all these other teams that I really just listed. And statistically, if the Patriots do bring in Matthew Stafford, he's a guy that throughout the years has always put up pretty good stats. And I'm going to go off of 2020 just because that's the most recent. I think that's really what people care about most. In 2020, he put over 4,000 yards up on the season. 4,084 yards, was able to put up 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, had 528 pass attempts, completing 339 of them for a completion percentage of 64.2. And look, I will say that his weapons are definitely better than what New England has right now. So if New England does want to bring on Matthew Stafford, no matter who your quarterback is, really, you got to update those weapons you have because you're not going to do much with what you currently have. I mean, he had Galladay, he had Jones, Hawkinson at tight end, even had Danny Amendola. Would I say that those weapons are the best in the league? No, but they are definitely better than what the Patriots have had. The advantage that I would say the Patriots have over the Detroit Lions is at offensive line. The offensive line is one of the best in the league that the Patriots have and is definitely an upgrade over the Detroit Lions O-line. Not to mention the fact that the Patriots also do have a running game that Matthew Stafford can also rely on. He doesn't have to rely on constantly throwing the ball. Now, since 2009, there is one quarterback that leads all other QBs, again, since 2009, postseason included, with completions 50 yards down the field or more. That man is Matthew Stafford. Coming in second is Aaron Rodgers. So clearly Matthew Stafford has a big arm that goes extremely underrated, probably because it was, with the Detroit Lions. But I think if you get Matthew Stafford, that good O-line the Patriots have, get that consistently, give him a run game that he can rely on behind him, get him weapons that he can have that are downfield weapons, then I think this opens the Patriots offense tremendously. This team does not just have to be a, 5 to 10 yard dump off offense that takes time to bring up yardage. Re-sign Damiere Byrd, get some guys who can be contested catch threats down the field because Matthew Stafford is extremely accurate. If we can get guys down the field that can do their job, I bet you $100. Actually, no, $100 is nothing. I bet you anything that you want to bet. I'll put it all on the line that Matthew Stafford is going to get that job done. I think what this really is all going to come down to is what are the Patriots willing to give up for Matthew Stafford? They have all the key opponents to be able to make a trade like this work. Belichick has always loved Matthew Stafford. You do have two former Lions coaches, one of them being a head coach now with New England. It's just going to be, what do the Patriots, Belichick, what are they willing to give up for Matthew Stafford? Are they going to be able to compete with these other teams? Because the Detroit Lions already said that they will be asking for at least a first-round pick. So in order to compete, the Patriots are likely looking at not having a first-round pick in this draft, likely going to be giving up 15th overall for Matthew Stafford and probably a little bit more. Him sitting at 32, obviously a first-round pick isn't exactly what you want to give up, especially because the Patriots are never at a position where they have a pick this high. Stafford, how much longer is he going to be in the league? We don't exactly know, but I will say that with the right team, he could easily be a top 10 quarterback. I personally believe that right now he is a top 10 quarterback, but I think that he can trend much, much, much higher with the right franchise. The question is going to be, is Belichick okay with giving up as high of a draft pick as they have, which is something that never, ever happens in our franchise? Is he okay with giving that up for a 32-year-old Matthew Stafford? That's going to be the question. That is going to be it for today's video, though, guys. Matthew Stafford available for trade, and the New England Patriots, in my book, are the number one suitor for him. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to give this video a big, big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. Like always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.